Hi there, it's John Fenton from Jazz Local 32. I'm going to be talking to some musicians to find out how their lives have been impacted by the COVID-19 crisis. My first interview is with iconic Wellington jazz musician John Ray, formerly from Scotland and with a lot of strings to his bow. He's an arranger, a composer, a band leader, educator, and so it goes on. Hi there, John.
Yeah, John, nice to see you. Nice to see you looking so well in these troubling times. Yeah, it's been strange. Ironically, the week before we went into shutdown, I was commenting to a bass player, a friend of ours, Patrick Bleakley, that we'd almost never been so busy. I mean, at one point, just the week before lockdown, we had 7 nights consecutive gigs, which was quite unusual, and all good gigs, And in fact, the last gig we did was a new commission I had that we premiered, and we did that gig, and then that was it. All all live performances were cancelled here in Wellington, and so it's been a bit of a shock, and things have changed immeasurably, as you can imagine. Particularly just the social interacting with musicians and playing together and all that's gone out the window. And really where we're at the moment is most of us are trying to keep in touch with each other, a lot of Skype calls and telephone calls and emails and stuff. So it's changed, one may say irreversibly, it's traumatic.
It is traumatic, yeah. And of course, initially the idea was that perhaps small groups could get together and record gigs and do live streaming, but that's changed.
That's all gone. Yeah, that was our initial response, was let's just live stream some gigs, no audience, no nothing. But of course that all got put to bed with the restrictions that came out, So, I mean, the only really interactive stuff I'm doing now anyways, I've sent out a couple of songs to musicians all over the planet, funny enough, and just asked them to contribute some audio and some video and audio. I presume, John, like yourself and like most of us, it's really just a question of keeping yourself busy and occupied and trying to keep some kind of routine into our lives, So, I mean, I'm quite lucky here in the house, even though I'm living in a pretty small house with 5 other people, and one of those persons is my son, Alex, aka Lil Ray, who's a kind of rapper. He's not kind of a rapper, he is, and so he's downstairs battering out beats. And my wife, she's an essential worker, so she's working from home.
Right.
And then I have my daughter and my daughter's boyfriend as well, who's also working from home. So it's a busy time. But I've set up a semi-studio downstairs in my garage where I've got the drums, and you can imagine that goes down well in the small enclosed space when the drummer starts practicing. But needs must, So we're just trying to get on and be constructive, John, and be positive. And as they say, just take it day by day. Don't be thinking weeks, months, whatever. Just day by day. Keep busy, keep practicing, and keep being.
Have you introduced your rapper son to Jamie Branch?
Well, not yet. No.
Poetry and music, which is my thing. But...
Well, it's nice, John. To be fair, Alex is 19 and he's kind of at the vanguard of what this particular genre is, So in many ways, it's also worthwhile just let him get on with it.
Yeah.
I mean, make his own discoveries and or else I'll have him just sitting down and listening to John Coltrane all day,
Yeah.
Which could be worse.
Well, I've lectured a few people. Don't spend this time listening entirely to 50s or 60s or 70s YouTube. Put aside a whole lot of time for listening to current musicians, because they need us right now.
Yeah, totally, John. And I know many of us are one slight plus in all this. We really are upgrading our kind of online presence You know, so I know myself, I've got a few albums that I've released that I was going to release in the future, but now we're just managing to get them all up in as many social platforms as possible. And any posts we're doing, I mean, to be honest, John, you know this, the best way people could help artists in general at the moment, go to the website, buy an album. It's pretty simple, you know, it's pretty simple, even if you hate it. Buy it anyway. It's a Christian charity, you know.
I've signed money for, you know, I've joined the San Francisco Jazz Collective, and it's probably, the live show is probably going to occur when I'm sound asleep, but yeah, sure. And I'm giving Bandcamp a good working over, because more money goes back to the artists, and that's what we have to do. And go to the tip jar, we're telling people.
Go to the tip jar. But I mean, yeah, I think just what you're saying, you know, if you can, and if you can afford it, buy product. And even if you can't, I mean, there's always YouTube. You know, everyone's got access to YouTube. Go to the artist music page. Just try and keep the community alive in the small way that we can. I mean, it could be like this for a while.
So tell me about these albums you're releasing, and I hope you'll send me some links.
Yes, I will do. Yeah, the one, funny enough, I think it came out on Monday on the social media platforms, you know, iTunes and Spotify and all that stuff. Is an album which I've called The Best of John Ray's Celtic Feet, which, if you want to go direct to the source, you can get it www.thickrecords.co.nz. And Celtic Feet was a group I had in Scotland around about the late 90s, early 2000, which was an amalgamation of jazz quartet with traditional Scottish traditional music. And we made a couple of albums, and the record company, of course, like all good record companies, eventually went bust. And so I've combined them both into a best of album. But it's nice. I haven't actually heard them myself in about 20 years, but it's nice, happy music to brighten up a miserable isolation day. So, and then other ones we got out, I just released a thing called Lighthouse, which is a Wellington quintet that's the music of Japan, basically. It's a lot of koto music that I've rearranged, and also written a couple of new things for it that's based on Japanese music. And I could go on, John, but the easiest way to do it is just check out the website, either my own one, johnray.biz, or go to the thickrecords.co.nz, where you'll find quite a lot of New Zealand stuff, primarily from myself and the great pianist Ben Wilcock, and others. So, you know, worth checking out. So there's, hey, listen, music to release isn't an issue. We've got back catalogues as far as my arm goes, you know, so. Yeah.
So, yeah, just for hopefully this will be picked up, you know, internationally. So people in the Northern Hemisphere will probably be familiar with you through the Scottish National Orchestra. So just give us a quick recap of your journey.
Sure. Well, listen, I come from a what one might say a musical family. You know, my dad was he's still alive, but recently retired. He was a very prominent double bass player, jazz player in the UK for decades. And my mother's, she was a music teacher, a high school music teacher, and piano player and singer, stuff like that. And I have 5 siblings, and they're all musicians as well, in their own way, all over the planet now. So music was always a thing in our family, and we were all encouraged to carry on and take it up as a career. Eventually, I ended up, at one point, I was with the Scottish National Jazz Orchestra, which was under and still is, the director's a guy called Tommy Smith, very, very good saxophone from
beautiful player.
Edinburgh. In fact, Tommy and I grew up together, and as young men, and recorded our first album together. I think we were 15, 16, something like that. And even as young men at 15, Tommy and I, we were gigging like 4 days a week as teenagers, you know. So anyway, I got back together with Tommy and spent 3 years with the National Jazz Orchestra, which is fantastic. And we played and recorded everybody from Joe Lovano to, it's a very, very long list of things we did, and a wonderful experience. Eventually that left, I left that and was always a very busy gigging musician and commissioned composer in the UK. And of course, my wife, Susie, who's from New Zealand, when the kids were about 5, we decided it was time for a change and came over to New Zealand, which is now, I think it's 14 years ago now,
Right.
which is incredible. It seems like yesterday. And as you can hear, my accent's changed considerably since I moved over here.
Yeah.
And so that's it. And John, when I came over to New Zealand, I was very lucky enough that I ended up getting the gig as the composer in residence at Victoria University here. That brought me to Wellington. And then when I arrived in Wellington, I found a scene that had a lot of similarities between the scene in Edinburgh, which is where I'm from. Obviously, small, it doesn't take long to get to know everybody, very intermixed vis-a-vis the genres, so I eventually got that group together down here called The Troubles, which has been the kind of the mainstay of my writing and organising things, which is, for those that don't know, it's generally a 10-piece ensemble with string quartet, 4 horns, bass and drums, and it's the same thing. We've got a couple of albums out there, latest one being called Kapow, which was recorded live at the Wellington Jazz Festival. That's out there.
Who released that?
That came out again through Thick Records.
Oh, through Thick Records, okay.
Thick Records. We had one before, which was just called The Troubles, which was released by the other jazz label in New Zealand through Rattle.
Rattle.
But now everything we do is through Thick Records.
Okay, and does Thick Records have Bandcamp connected to it?
We used to have Bandcamp, John, but we don't do Bandcamp anymore. We use all the other social medias, but it's just between you and I. There's that. It was just a difference in opinion. Their idea that you can live stream music, and hopefully, if the person likes it, they'll buy it. It's one way of thinking of it. I personally would have liked to. Their argument is if people like it so much, they'll buy it. Fair enough. But in our small world, now we thought there are better alternatives. I know Bandcamp give a bigger share, but really when you're dealing in pennies and halfpennies, it's not really about money.
Okay.
It's really just about getting out there, getting it heard. And if there's financial gains to be made, they're so small, it's negligible.
Yeah. Well, I'll direct people to Thick Records and mention your albums, and I think we've got some YouTube clips up there. I saw a Troubles gig at Cuba Mall, I think it looked like, or somewhere around there. Yeah.
Yeah, that actually could have been, John, if we're talking about the same one, could be live at Meow, and that's where we recorded the album, Kapow. So that clip, if you were watching the right one, is the actual recording of the album. So buy the album, watch the clip, help us eat, and put shoes on our children's feet. Okay.
I think that's probably a good point to wrap it up, and I just wish you all the best, John, and just say I love the Troubles, and I know everyone that's ever heard the Troubles loves the Troubles.
Thank you.
It's anarchic, it's real, it's got its own groove, it reaches out to the world, it's outward looking, it's not introspective noodling at all. And as a drummer, you project, you exhort, like a few other drummers actually.
Thank you, John. Listen, the main thing is worth pointing out with the Troubles, all the members in the Troubles, we genuinely love each other as human beings. When we play together, it's a different level from a bunch of people get together to play music. We genuinely enjoy each other's company and the music that we play. And equally with yourself, John, keep healthy. And to all the people out there listening to this and watching it, keep healthy, keep positive.